How about now? Sorry about that. Oh, hold on just a second.
Superman one. Gonna kind of annoy some people with that one. But thank you for the follow, man. Appreciate it.
You know
Uh,
what? Stick
no
with that
audio.
name.
Okay, there we go. All right, cool. But yeah. Welcome. Well, sorry. Welcome to episode 2. Last week's episode, we actually discussed a couple of articles, one particular article by a gentleman named Warren Spector, who is a very prolific game director, writer, designer. Basically, to kind of sum up the episode, and I highly suggest you guys go watch it. His take on what one of the key pillars of a solid game, of a good game, something that you can kind of say might even be critically acclaimed, is its interaction with the players and how player agency and player interaction within the game is kind of going to take it to that next level. And to give you a bit of more inspector, his kind of genre is immersive simulation. Um, so games like, let's pull up some of his notables. Let's see. Most recently, he worked on Underworld Ascendant for 505 Games. He did Epic Mickey and Epic Mickey 2, Thief, Deadly Shadows, and one of his critically acclaimed um, pieces was in 2000 Deus Ex, which spawned the hit series Deus Ex and Deus Ex Machina. I believe it came out only 2 games in that series, right?
I believe back then, I mean, there have been the New Age Deus Ex games. And I say New Age, but that was like PS3, like with Human
Okay,
Revolution that came out.
gotcha, yeah. But so yeah, that was our first episode, and this week we're actually going into another, at least in my opinion, very critical piece that can make or break a game, and that is the music, the soundtrack. We see it in TV and films all the time. The composition of music and beats and audio to the visual representation of what's happening. The particular scene between the characters is heightened, and it's elevated by the musical score. I mean, we all know the theme to Halo. I mean, we you can close. I'm pretty sure everybody in this chat can close their eyes and hear the theme to Halo. As soon as you boot up that game and it comes on, like that's it, man. It gives me shivers. So we're actually going to be talking about that today, and the individual that have kind of came across my screen was Winifred Phillips. She is a BAFTA nominated video game composer. She's worked on things like Jurassic World Primal Ops, which is, I believe, her most recent project. She's worked on the Assassin's Creed, believe it was Liberty, and a bunch of her pieces were featured in that particular piece. Um, and I mean, she's won. Let's see. Yeah, it was Jurassic World Primal Ops, who won both the Global Music Award and the Nix Award, and then was nominated for Society of Composers and Lyricists Award for Outstanding Score for Interactive Media. So yeah, I mean, she's a composer that knows her stuff and has done some great work. And she's come out with some good articles on GameDeveloper.com, which I highly suggest you guys check out. Greg, if you could drop the link to that article, to the one Anatomy of a Game music track.
Certainly will. Just give me a minute.
Thank you. That way, the viewers can kind of check it out. She goes into depth on that in that particular article. She's discussing some piece of work that she did for Skyweaver. We'll get into that in a moment. But yeah, just take a moment to again thank you guys for joining us for episode 2. How's everybody doing before we jump into the meat and potatoes of the episode? How you guys doing? Greg, Matt, how you guys doing? How's y'all's week been going?
Busy, very busy.
Yeah.
Seems that people think that I need to be doing a lot of streaming. So.
yeah. I mean, yeah, we're getting kind of our plates full with streams, and you especially. Both this one and for those of you guys who don't know, we do have a Friday stream. That is based in the Cyberpunk Red universe, with a little bit of adjustments, but we play in that world on Friday nights at 8 EST. Join us there. I'm pretty sure there's a if you hit the follow button, you'll get a notification for that. And also both this, the update log, and the Bureau of Reclamation stream that we have on Fridays based in the Cyberpunk Universe Red are in conjunction to the Vanguard Studios, which is our respective game design and content creation company. So just one element of that. We are surviving, Matt. that's an accurate.
That's all we can do in this day and age.
That's serious. D Gamer Aries, yeah, I'm doing well, man. Thanks for asking. I'm glad to hear that you're doing pretty well. But with that out of the way, and if you guys are ready, surviving and not throwing any nat ones in your sessions. See, since you said that, I guarantee we're gonna have nat ones all day on Friday.
Nat ones make me happy. Just so you know.
No, odd or even makes him happy. That's
that too.
That's the thing now. We need to get T-shirts that say odd or even on them. I'm just letting you know. But yeah, honestly, at our private tables, both Greg and I DM private games for our friends. Odd or even has become some synonymous with a potential death knell for certain characters. Thank you, Intoxicated Kitten 23. Appreciate it. Glad you're joining us here. And it sounds like from what you just said, you join us on Fridays as well. Thank you for that. Oh yeah, Moon Girl. she's aware of the odd or even.
Oh, come on.
It's not that bad.
Greg's favorite question to ask.
Look, all you gotta do is go even Steven every time, and it never fails. It canonically never fails.
Revenge attacks to Raza. Come on, Aries. It's not like I killed you or anything while you were in your stream. I mean, that never happened, right?
That sounds like a story. It sounds like a story that I'm willing to devote some 5 minutes to. So please explain.
There's this one disclaimer that I have, and that is that it wouldn't have happened if he wouldn't have allowed Banana Tom and I to do it. So, and he was very gracious.
Set himself up.
It did. Oh, it didn't happen. Okay, all right. I'm good with that. Never happened. We'll just retcon all of that. Never happened.
All right. Since we're not gonna have story time, I regret a life choice. Don't we all? Don't we all? That's a mood.
True words have never been said.
Seriously. But yeah, since everybody's here and ready to go, we're actually going to jump into basically the topic of discussion for today, which basically is the musical composition within video games and their impact on basically the setting, the theme, the I would even say the personal connection that the audience, i.e., the player, has with the game itself. And again, we've seen it in multiple different avenues, be it music itself, the music industry, music composition within films and TV shows, and for us, video games. Like I mentioned earlier, as an example, we all know that sound, that theme song, the first notes of the Halo theme. Like we all know it. I'm pretty sure all of you, like I said earlier, you can close your eyes and you can hear it. And it's those elements that really hook you in to a game. I mean, they're not the only ones, but elements like that, those strong, evocative, and inspiring pieces. Would be lighting, and obviously in this case, music and soundtrack. Those are the things that endear games to us. I mean, another one that comes to mind is Skyrim. We all know what that sounds like. you know um so that's my two cents on that. And before we jump into the articles that we've reviewed for you guys here today, and again, I believe Greg has dropped the link to one of them. And if you guys, again, you click on that link, it'll open the, let's see, what's the name of this particular article again? Anatomy of a Game music track, composing music for Skyweaver, excuse me, wow, by Winifred Phillips. And it has all of her different articles in there, and some of them we'll be going through tonight. But enough of me yapping. So with regards to our theme, Matt, what do you think? Again, I'm picking on you because you're going to school for some of this stuff. So, and I believe you mentioned you've kind of crossed that particular bridge in some of your classes. What's your thoughts, man?
Oh yeah. Well, now, granted, I'm no like a composer myself. I'm not like a music man myself, but I have learned pieces of. I've learned little things here and there, and the article by Winifred Phillips seems to make a lot of sense to me because, like, each piece, because like in the article, she kind of breaks down each piece of the specific track called Ready and
Hmm.
how it relates to the themes in the game.
Yeah.
So like like one part of it she talks about is like there's kind of this mystical element related to crystals and stuff. So she made sure that there is an element that has this kind of like how do you describe it? It definitely has a
It's like a
mystical feel to it.
tinkling. Yeah,
Yeah.
like some of the I don't want to say sound effects, but some of the notes in that particular example that you're giving, Matt, there was like these kind of tinkling noises that you would get from, like, crystals, and kind of like a whimsical setting. So yeah, I mean, she hit the nail on the head with evoking that sense when I listened to it. And again, guys in the stream, the link to the article is somewhere in the chat. And about middle of the page, you'll find that YouTube link that she posted in the article with the Skyweaver Ready theme. So you guys can kind of get an idea of what we're talking about. But yeah, I mean, she imported, or she imparted that piece of, hey, this is what you know the designers and the artists are trying to convey, and this is what they're putting on in terms of the image. And for those who don't know, Skyweaver is TCG, a trading card game. So a lot of visuals kind of go into that, and she added her touches musically to kind of reinforce the visuals that the designers have put in. Um, didn't mean to cut you off, man. I apologize. I totally just did that.
No, man, you're good. And yeah, like I was saying, like that was just one piece of how she, just one piece of the whole track that she implemented, and every piece was relating to a different part of the game. So
Mm,
the kind of mystical crystal is one part, but she also adds some in because there's also this kind of bit of a futuristic element as well in the game. And like there's no part in the entire track that is out of place. Every part that she has relates to something in the game. And
hmm
that's not just about the game's themes, but also its gameplay. Because in a TCG, trading card game, you typically need time to kind of think and strategize. And so because of that, it's not exactly blaring heavy metal in your ear.
Yeah,
It's a
yeah.
bit more like of a it's a bit more like calm and stuff that gives you that time to think.
hmm Yeah, yeah. And she even mentioned in the article where, unlike some of her other projects, creating music for Skyweaver was very. It required a bit of a different approach because, like you said, it's not super dynamic and super kind of in your face music because of the nature of the game. It's the music is very even. There are some variations in pitch and tone, and like there's some high notes and some low notes, obviously, but it's not so drastic as you would find in something, let's say Doom Eternal, for example. Some of those really hard hitting ensembles, because that's what the scene called for. In Skyweaver, it's a bit different. It's very, very kind of, again, even. It's stays consistent, I guess, is the best way to put it.
So, Rob,
Um,
I got a
yeah,
quick question for the audience. If you would post what your favorite either video game soundtrack or even movie soundtrack is, but if you
yeah,
would post that in the chat so we can get an idea. Maybe we can talk about some of those. Share some thoughts on what you really liked and what you didn't like.
exactly. Yeah, please, guys. That's a great question. And kind of to take a second to address some of the comments posted in the chat. Aries. Yeah, I mean, honestly, it kind of came across my email. I get notifications for these kind of things, and emails for this kind of stuff every day, actually. And yeah, it's games. Good soundtracks, just like good scenes, good characters, oftentimes are what make people remember the show, the game, the movie. If it's a solid, good piece of artwork and piece of creative endeavor, whatever the medium, hopefully it's not one singular thing that makes you remember it, because then, eh, but oftentimes it's usually one of a few pieces of a few elements, and that's across the board. It'll be your music, your characters, the setting. That's kind of across the board from medium to medium.
So Grimwolfen actually brings up Supergiants games and the soundtracks. I'm not familiar with those, but
Neither am I,
They're
actually.
they're more of a kind of indie studio, and they've made some pretty damn good games. And Hades, their most recent thing, which they've already announced, Hades 2.
That was them.
Yeah, that
I
was
did not.
Supergiant
Oh,
Games.
okay. Shit.
They're they really made it big with Hades. Like
Yes,
if I
yes.
recall, didn't that get named Game of the Year like
I
last year
believe
or the
it
other year?
did. I believe.
Like
Let me. Let me. While you're talking, Matt, I'm gonna do some googling.
yeah, like in their other games, like they have a game called Bastion, which that game has an amazing soundtrack, has a very rustic feel to it. Grim just brought up their other game, Transistor. That also had a fantastic soundtrack, and even the main character was a singer, as a Grimm says. So it had a heavy theme on music, and it very much delivers on its soundtrack.
Yeah, and yes, they did win Game of the Year. Believe 10th annual New York Game Awards. I believe is for the year of 2020.
2020 already? I feel like it's more recent than
Yeah.
that. Man,
Um,
time
I'm
passes so
looking.
quickly these days.
Yeah, no, it was just 2020. They won Game of the Year. They won Best Game. No, those are all nominations, rather, I should say. But they did win Best Indie Game, Best Action Game, um, for Game Awards.
So, so we got a
They were
couple others
nominated.
out there as well. Moon Girl liked the Zelda, Breath of the Wild. Um, Aries actually brought up JRPGs and the Skyrim
JRPGs.
JRPGs. Yeah, there you go.
Yes, yeah. Wow, JRPGs. There's a lot of them. One of my favorites, and Matt's personal favorites. I'm going to say this: Final Fantasy Tactics.
Yeah,
That
it's a classic. And
that's
it
near and
had good
dear.
music.
Yeah, it's near and dear to my heart, man. Um, all right, let's. We've got a lot of engagement in the chat, so we're gonna take it bit by bit here. Zelda Breath of the Wild. Yeah, I've never played that yet. I haven't played that yet, but I've heard really good things about their soundtrack, and I mean it is Zelda. They have iconic soundtracks and visuals, especially now. But I will have to check that out. Elder Scrolls music or Armania, yeah. I mean,
Yep. It-
you can't go wrong with a good Elder Scrolls soundtrack. I mean, everything back from Morrowind to now, all iconic stuff. I mean, what
The
is it?
time of
Skyrim is still
release.
getting modded and updated
Oh
and
yeah,
and
and
changed
re-released.
and re-released. So I mean, how many Game of the Year releases have they had?
Don't worry, guys. Maybe we'll get to Elder Scrolls 6 in like 20 years
Maybe, maybe
after
we'll be
Skyrim has really well and truly run its course.
right. Oh,
They've
by the
stolen as
way,
much as they possibly could.
yeah, um, yeah, Halo. I mean, the entire Halo series. Halo 3 especially. Transistor. Oh, okay, was a singer. Huh. I've heard of Transistor. I've never. I think I've seen some gameplay footage on that one, but I've never had the pleasure, unfortunately.
Yeah, that's another of the Supergiant games.
Let's see. Risk of Rain 1 and 2. Those I have heard of. Yeah.
Oh yeah,
Um.
definitely good.
Let's see. Yeah, Final Fantasy Tactics is really good.
I have to
Can't
say
claim.
I might be a little bit biased, but I am partial to the Cyberpunk 2077 soundtrack,
Yeah,
and
that's a
the
good one.
I got a I
They
got a
had some
little
good matches.
I got a little bit of a sneak peek of some of the music that's coming with the next release, and I think it's even better. It's getting better.
Oh,
So
the new expansion. I
yeah.
think it's sometime this summer.
Hmm.
Phantom Liberty. Yeah, that's gonna be really good. I'm glad Johnny Silverhand's coming back. I'm so happy to see Keanu Reeves back in that role. He nailed it. Yeah, The Mandalorian, Moon Girl. That show. I mean, spaghetti western all the way. The tone that's set by kind of that opening. I can't even do it, but I mean, if you've seen it, if you haven't seen it, go watch it. If you've seen it, you know what I'm talking about. Just that opening kind of series of notes. It's like, oh, who's gonna get lucky today? Um, Skyrim is running out of names. Yeah, they are running out of names. I think they're really really trying to milk it. But what? Oh yeah, Dragon Age Inquisitions. I mean, honestly, the whole Dragon Age series itself had really good soundtracks. Another thing that kind of get that I thought kind of gets forgotten, but it is in the realm of audio, but it's more on the kind of the gameplay and design aspect is effects, game sound effects. That is, and I know we're getting a little bit off topic, but that is something that for me personally, if again, everything outside, if the game has really good sound effects, and if you expect a a certain weapon to sound a specific way, a automatic weapon to sound like something you've heard in a movie, or in real life if you have experience with that, um, and it does, feather in their cap. And honestly, they're just getting better and better and better. I highly recommend you guys actually check out some YouTube videos on how they make sound effects. It's really freaking interesting. They use some weird stuff to get those sound effects. I will say that, like coconuts for horse, like for horse hooves plotting.
Yeah, and like sound effects are very important because not just for like raising the immersive factor of like making things sound like they should, like if two swords clanging against each other, it sounds like two swords clanging against each other.
Hmm.
But it's also incredibly important for just feedback to the player so they know
Yeah.
something just happened, because like in the game, what happened was data, just something changed,
Hmm.
but you need to be able to tell your player that this thing just happened, and that can, and like a good designer makes it so that there's not just one source of feedback. They need visual feedback, they need audio feedback. Like the
Hmm.
more types of feedback you have for whatever is happening, the better, because people can miss things easily.
Oh yeah, yeah. You need that. I believe the proper term is haptic feedback. I believe. Y'all can quote me if I'm wrong. But yeah, you need that haptic feedback. You need that you need that thing to register. That hey, that sword just clanged, or that door just shut. And again, if it's done well, it it leads to that immersion. But again, you like you said, Matt, you get that confirmation of hey, that thing did happen. Um, and yeah, Aries, like it's really wonky and funny and awesome to see how creative people get, um, with adding, or getting creative with putting those sound effects together. And Armania, yes, you did get a little bit of a timeout there for the long message, but yeah, horror games especially when they add in really good effects and good ambiance with the music, or kind of the tone that those audios set for sure. Um, I mean, a good game, if you guys haven't heard of it, is Phasmophobia. Um, it's like your ghost hunter. Oh, you've played it, Matt.
I haven't played it, but I've watched plenty of people play it, and I know what it's about. So,
Yeah, it's. I mean, here's the fun thing. I think it's one guy,
One of
one dude that's doing that.
one of the streamers on here tonight, Brodacious, actually, he's a Phasmophobia guy, so he streams that quite often, actually.
Oh yeah, no, I've played it. I ain't gonna lie. Ooh, it's I haven't had like a really big jump scare that I can remember, but it has its moments. And honestly, from what I've heard, I haven't played it in a while, but it's gotten a lot better. Again, I think initially, if it's not still the case, but initially there was only one developer working on it. Hopefully, that individual, with the success of his game, or her game, I can't remember if it's male or female, um, has gotten some team members, because just by themselves they were doing a fantastic job. Um,
yeah.
that bad, huh, Aries?
PTSD.
But,
Yeah,
but
like I can see that. And like that's like the horror genre is also like another game genre that very much takes advantage, like the full advantage of the soundtrack being used, because it's not just like the
Mhm.
music, but it's also like elements of ambient noise going on. It's
Yes.
usually when
Yeah.
the danger is approaching. like before you see it, like this kind of ambient noise will start rising up to kind of raise your tension to kind of
Mhm.
get you on the edge of your seat.
Yeah,
And
and
like the good
no,
old
go ahead.
jump scare, they not
Yeah.
just visually, but there's also a shocking sound to go right with that. Like the horror genre is
Okay.
honestly a pretty good place to look at how they use sounds to elicit the emotions that they want from you to get
Hmm.
you into that creepy area.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
gotta make a quick comment on what Aries is saying there. He is not exaggerating. He does scream at game spiders.
Jeez. Okay. Fair enough. Now we know what scares them. We can have spiders on stream next time.
Just have one
Game
crawling
spiders.
across our
Yeah. So
background there
there you
slowly.
go. Halloween's right around the corner. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, our money at playing it never again. Oh, come on, you gotta give it a chance.
And Grimwolfen also
No.
brings up Amnesia: The Dark
Amnesia.
Descent, which is that's a classic horror
Yeah, it is a
game.
classic.
If
And
you if
that game is all about the atmosphere. Like it's actually quite a while before you actually see any monsters, but they set that atmosphere so damn well that like even before you're in actual danger, you're getting the heebie-jeebies.
I'm actually gonna do you one better, Grimwolf. Wolfen, you probably, if you remember Amnesia, you probably remember Silent Hill. Silent Hill, boy. Whew. That game gave me nightmares. That game gave me nightmares and fear. Tactical shooter. That game gave me nightmares. Yep.
I've never played Fear, but I have heard good things about it. But
It's back, especially back in the day. I mean, it was early 2000s. When did Fear come out? Let's go back to the YouTube, the Google.
yeah,
I never played the Silent Hill series either. I've watched.
Really?
Yeah,
Oh, you guys
yeah.
gotta play it.
I've watched a couple playthroughs for some of the games. They do a lot of good things, not just the visually, but also like I guess this is getting a little off topic, but they do a lot of the like thematic, like the themes with the monsters and how exactly they relate to the personal traumas and fears of the main character.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
like that's genius. And of course, I guess there is some outliers that kind of return between games, such as like the nurses and Pyramid Head, just because they were iconic. So I guess a little
Yep.
weaker on the theme with those ones as they went on, but the origin of Silent Hill, I think they did really great.
Yeah, they did. They did a fantastic job. But yeah, Fear came out in about 2005. Was when the first game released, and it let's just say it definitely sets a tone with their soundtrack and again the audio elements just across the board. Um, let's see. And again, guys, I just want to let you all know I am really appreciating the stream engagement. Keep the examples coming. This is kind of what we're looking for here, and we want y'all's input. Let's see.
Just so everybody knows, D Gamer Aries is I posted it out there. You should check him out. But he and I go back and forth like this on every stream that we are on together. So
Okay. So you're like an old married couple.
sure,
That's
sure.
what I
But yeah, definitely. I mean, like Greg said, guys, check
I
out
think
the
he's very
channel.
unhappy in the relationship right now.
Oh, okay, all right. I mean, there's counseling for that, guys. Resident Evil. Yeah, I remember. So I was a '90s kid, and I remember when Resident Evil first came out on the original PlayStation, and even then, yeah, they had a great score. I haven't played any of their more recent stuff. At some point, I probably will have to. But yeah, I've heard a lot of good stuff about the last 2 or 3 games they've come out with have been really, really well received.
Oh yeah, it's because they completely turned the series around. Because like I think Resident Evil 4, while it was an amazing game, it marked a change in
Hmm.
the way the series was going as they started focusing more on action, and that kind of came
Gotcha.
to a head in the not so fondly remembered Resident Evil 6, which just went it just went bonkers with the just over the top action. And that game
Gotcha.
wasn't very well received because it wasn't really that scary. It was just high octane action. And so, yeah, in 7, yeah, like as D Gamer is saying, they just swung it right back and completely changed the entire formula of the gameplay that they had been going with. To where like instead of being like kind of third person action with like, you know, with all that stuff, they went into first person, putting you directly in uh Eth in what was it? Ethan, yeah, Ethan's shoes, and like
Hmm.
he was no like secret soldier or anything. He was just a dude, and he was thrust in this situation, and so like the action was not as high octane, and like especially early game, a single enemy was a huge obstacle.
Hmm.
Yeah, the village wasn't as scary as 7. I think so. Yeah, I kind of agree with that. Village was the 8th Resident Evil, and I think again they kind of fell into that trap of action where because they want to try to up the ante, they gotta put bigger and bigger things in front of you, and so mommy Des, yeah. If there's one good thing about Resident
Oh
Evil 8,
boy.
it was just seeing on the
All the
internet thirst
memes.
over giant
Oh,
vampire mommy.
yeah.
It
Mm.
was, oh god, I love seeing all
L-
those memes.
let's just say the degenerates do come out. With when Mommy Des is mentioned. Um, yeah, I mean, I haven't played the game and I know who that is. It just goes to show you. um, but to kind of veer us a little bit back on topic, and this kind of segues really well. This means we're yeah, the memes were amazing. Yeah, you're right. Um, but to kind of steer us a little bit back on topic, and this kind of what we're discussing here in games and the elements within, like you just mentioned, areas, scenes, um, and the musical or audio impact in a particular scene kind of segues into another one of Winifred Phillips's other articles. She did a 4-part series talking about specific elements in relation to trailers, cutscenes, and cinematics. Those 4 elements were characterization, information, identity, and narrative. And the one that really stuck out to me, it was actually a quote from, I believe, her book. She came out with a book a bit ago. Let me actually see what day that was. So I'm accurate in my information. That was released. Let's see. Where is the release date? It was published in 2017 by MIT Press, and the name of the book is A Composer's Guide to Game Music. And there's a particular quote from chapter 3, page 50, that says, "If we accept that music has the power to deliver storytelling messages, then our responsibility as game composers must broaden to include the interpretation and enhancement of plot. This would involve an understanding of what makes a story compelling and enjoyable, and an ability to recognize the strongest aspects of a game's story so that we can attempt to heighten the player's appreciation of those elements." And it goes on to kind of say, it's useful for composers to, and again, of any media from film to television and games, to study dramatic writing. She stresses that while you don't need to be an excellent writer, understanding kind of how plot progression and those story beats function within a larger framework, especially within gameplay, um, will make you a better composer in terms of being able to recognize when a particular plot point needs to be enhanced or accentuated in some fashion, or even a character, either the character themselves or their actions need to be kind of annotated and clarified by music or audio sound effects. And I mean, it's true. I mean, we've kind of talked about this since the last 40 minutes, where there are certain elements of games and certain characters within the games that we've played that if we take a critical look at those examples, like I mean, go to Gears of War when God, what's his face when he dies? Um, it's not Marcus. Anybody who's played Gears of War, help me out here.
I played like the
I think it was
first
Dominic. I
racing.
think that the character's name was Dominic. But that whole scene and the kind of the music that played in that background of that scene of when Dominic find his wife corrupted, and then pretty much goes on a suicide ride to give his guys time. It wouldn't have had as much of an impact, and I will say this wholeheartedly, without that music, without those musical notes that beat because I mean, suffice it to say, music evokes emotion almost all the time in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah, and that's what helps like sell the. Yeah, I mean they're trying to elicit the emotion from you that the story also is. So like honestly, a type of music that I really like in games that I just really vibe with is like when there's just like sad music. And I know that's kind of weird to say, but like
No,
I love it when there's just a really good sad music. Like uh Legend of Zelda Twilight Princess, Midna's Lament. I
yeah,
found I loved that track. Like
yeah,
it
yeah.
was it was exactly what it needed to be. Just kind of like it was just you're in a bad situation, Midna's hurt, and like yeah, I mean as it's called Midna's Lament, and you feel that like it's just a bad
Hmm.
time.
So we
Yeah.
got a couple of thoughts in the chat there. Aries, is talking about his agreement with. I'm not sure who you're agreeing with, Aries. If you could clarify that.
Are you,
You talking about Rob?
I think he might be talking about the
Oh,
composer
the
that
The
we're
article.
article. Okay,
Yeah. Okay.
Winifred
Perfect.
Phillips.
yes, yeah, Winifred Phillips, yes. Yeah, I totally agree with you. I believe that that's part of the reason why I read it, is because it kind of stood out to me, that she had the wherewithal to really realize that understanding the progression of a story and where those kind of high and lows within the plot lend themselves to really notable pieces of music, and how as a composer she and those like her can really enhance those important plot points, whether they're be it triumphant music of a victory well earned, or like you were saying, Matt, a lament to illustrate a loss, a deep loss. uh, those, again, those stick with us, those stick with us, those make us remember those points, but more importantly, remember the game and replayability. How many times have we've kind of gone back and played a game just to see or hear a specific scene? I know I've done it dozens of times.
Oh yeah, definitely. That was me with Undertale. I played that game through
Mm.
quite a few times, and amazing soundtrack by Toby Fox.
Yeah, and Brodicious, yeah, Final Fantasy 10 did yeah, you are 100% correct. Did a fantastic job. I'd even go so far as to say Final Fantasy 7, 8, and 9 all had absolutely outstanding OSTs across the board throughout the entire game. Um, there were moments I remember in Final Fantasy IX where I was brought to tears, and again I was younger. I was in my early teens, early to mid teens when I played that game. And there are points. I believe there was a point where you have to leave one of your party members behind to die or something. Um, and and yeah, it brought me to tears. And the fight music too. I know the Final Fantasy is like turn based for the most part, at least back in the day. Um, but the fight music that would get me hype as hell. I'm like, yo, let's go, let's go. Um,
One comment I just want to comment on. Moon Girl was saying, talking about the music for The Last of Us, and I agree with that just wholeheartedly, because
yeah,
the sound effects, the music in that series, um, really does just a phenomenal job of setting the mood. And in a lot of ways, just my personal opinion is, in a lot of ways it kind of makes the game in a lot of ways.
oh yeah.
Very nice stuff.
I
Yeah.
mean, yeah, Moon Girl. They did. I kind of I kind of stopped watching it because so y'all about to find out something about me. I hate mushrooms, and the
Really?
fact that Last of Us is a bunch of mushroom people just puts me off. It's disgusting. Burn it all with fire. For those of you who are Warhammer 40K fans, fucking exterminatus, destroy it all. Just burn it to the ground. It's disgusting. Stop.
Yeah, didn't
No,
know that.
yeah, I hate mushrooms. They're just nasty.
Now I know what to throw at him.
I mean, they're gross, but I'm like, I don't eat them. But yeah, you show up, and you got mushrooms coming at your face. I'm gonna. I can't say it on stream, but I'll do something. um, but yeah,
We're
they
TV 18, man. You're good.
just hit you with a shovel is the least of what I'll do. But yeah, Last of Us, the show, they really did really try to stick to the game and kind of hit those points that were really impactful in the game and bring it to live television, which honestly is a really really tough thing to do. And I am very impressed that they nailed it, because I mean we've all seen adaptations of video games and anime and other things like books, and it's like they had it and they were like, what, fuck this, we ain't doing that, and they do
Yeah.
something completely different.
Yeah. Well, I mean, translating a piece of media, like translating a story across different types of media, it does demand that changes do be made, and a lot of
Yeah,
times it's the original intent can be lost. And like that whole topic could be something for a whole like other podcast, going a deep dive onto that topic
yeah,
alone. Like,
yeah.
because there's so many examples of just there are so many examples of that type of thing going wrong,
Mhm.
and a few that actually go fairly well.
Yeah, I
But
mean, I'm gonna have to write that down somewhere for a later episode down the line, because that is a very good point. Adaptations of books and movie or certain media into to live action, whether it be books, whether it be games. Those are really the two major ones. Oftentimes they hit the mark, they miss the mark. Excuse me. But Last of Us, from what I've heard, I've seen the game. I haven't played it. Um, I've seen enough of the game to kind of understand it. From what I understand, they really really hit the mark with the Last of Us TV show. And I mean, it's
yeah,
Pedro Pascal. The dude's, you can't miss. He's the Mandalorian.
yeah, and
Like you said, either I'll bring you in warm or bring you in cold, but I'm bringing you in.
yeah,
I
and
gotta watch the last season of the Mandalorian.
yeah. I think my favorite example of the movie to games or vice versa is Prince of Persia, because Prince of Persia
Oh
is a video
my god.
game, and then they made a movie of the video game, and then they made a game based on the movie. So it's
Yeah,
Prince of Persia, the game,
it's
the movie,
Inception.
the game.
It's fucking Inception, man.
Yeah, they just went full circle. I'm like, what is
Yeah.
going on here?
Although I will say this, because I remember the movie with Jake Gyllenhaal. I didn't think it was half bad. I didn't think it was half bad. I thought it was alright. It wasn't the best. It was alright.
I,
Um,
I think I went to see that. Wasn't terrible, but yeah.
Let's see. You're trying to think of a game series that was great, but then the music kind of let it down.
Terrible.
Uh that's a good question. I can't remember anything off the top of my head.
The
Because
thing is,
usually, oftentimes, it's usually the music that saves a flop. Um,
like the thing is that if the soundtrack doesn't hit, then you usually just forget. So it's hard to
mhm.
think about like something that would have been good if it wasn't for the music. It's like you remember the good ones, unless if something is like specifically incredibly jarring, then you probably won't remember it. It'll just be forgettable and like just no longer in your mind.
Yeah, yeah, and I did scroll back a little bit of a ways. I missed a couple things, couple mention comments there. Yeah, I do honestly. I haven't replayed any of the Final Fantasy games for a bit, but now that you mentioned, I might have to go back. But yeah, I mean, all of the scores of almost all the Final Fantasy games, even the MMO Final Fantasy 14 are just really really good. They definitely spare no expense on getting that right. Uh, Halo was an okay game, but I played it because of the music. Yeah.
Just
I
have some
mean,
rights with those words.
yeah, I was gonna say, man, you might want to be careful where you dropping those words at, man. Fight words. I grew up on Halo. I remember when the first one fucking came out. But no, yeah, I will agree. There's some of them that were some of the installment was a little meh, but oftentimes the music was definitely top tier all the way through. I can't say the same about the show though. From what I heard, the show was trash. Didn't watch it though, so
I
Well,
think you
for
might be right, Grimwolf, and personal opinion here, but as far as Halo setting the standard for first-person shooters, there's been quite a few good first-person shooter games out there. So, but Halo definitely
yeah,
stands out, at
Halo.
least in my mind.
Yeah,
they
yeah, no,
definitely did a lot for
100%.
multiplayer
They
shooters.
did. Yeah, single player shooters. What set the standard for single player shooters?
If you want to talk about like the very beginning, that would be Doom. Like
Yeah,
they're the
yeah, that
like
would
they're
be
the ones who
Doom.
kind of like essentially created the first
Y-
person shooter genre to where like
Yeah, yeah,
for a
that would
long
be Doom.
time first person shooter wasn't even like
It
the
wasn't even
term
a first person
genre. It was
shooter.
always just Doom clone. That was what
Yeah,
a
yeah, and honestly, first person shooters weren't even first person shooters back in the day. They were like the side scrolling shit. But
yeah.
yeah, like Doom. I mean, not only did Doom, the original Doom, set the stage for first person shooters, they also had a badass soundtrack too. Um, Damn, talk about way back in the day.
I
What
mean,
else?
Grim
Let's
has a
see what
pretty
we
good
got
point
here.
there.
Golden.
Like
Oh
yeah,
my God,
GoldenEye.
GoldenEye. Holy
Yeah,
shit.
like okay, I'll retract my
Yo.
earlier statement. Say Halo is like what's at stake for like online multiplayer shooters. GoldenEye, that was
That
what did
was yeah.
the origin of multiplayer shooters because I remember
GoldenEye,
playing that
Quake.
game. Yeah, like
Quake was definitely really good.
I like to play what was it? Odd Job with the hat and try to get a hat
Yeah.
kill from across the map.
Oh
Great.
yeah. Oh man, good old days.
My favorite little
Um,
guy.
let's see. Let's see. What we missed a couple points here. Um, see, after the Witcher series, I'm stopping watching. Yeah, I mean, you had Geralt of Rivia in the palm of your hand, Henry Cavill. I mean, and you fucked it up, 100%. And this is again no dig at Liam. I mean, personally, I don't think he's that good of an actor, but this is
Damn.
no dig at him in regards to him taking over for Henry again. Man's got to eat, but for me, the show ends after season 3. I completely agree. Um, because
Uh,
they like that's another series that had an outstanding soundtrack that really hit the points that needed to be hit within the game. I've played Butcher 3 2 times now. Um,
yeah,
let's
and
see. There
Aromania
was
brings up Double O Seven's that Goldeneye. I think she's talking about Goldeneye there. The
yeah,
music and as soon as it started playing, you knew what game you're playing, like yeah, definitely. And like there are a lot of games that have like they set the mood for exactly what you're going to be doing.
Hmm.
So like
Hmm.
GoldenEye, you know that you're going to be doing secret spy stuff. You know you're the smooth talker James Bond. Or if you go to other games that if you to the opposite side of the spectrum with like high octane ridiculous music, go to Metal Gear Rising Revengeance because they've had two songs that have slapped so hard that they became internet memes. Rules of Nature and It Has to Be This Way.
Metal Gear Solid. Oh man, I that's another game I cried in when you had to make the decision to either kill off Meryl or Gray Fox. I always killed off Gray Fox. Full disclosure, Meryl. Yeah, she's the woman. Like if I can make one, it'd be her. I'm sorry. If you know, you know. Um, Meryl was she was that ride or die, 100%. Um, for those of you who've never played Metal Gear Solid, I highly recommend it. Go play it. Yeah. Um, let's see. I mean, fighting that centered. Yeah, exactly. Or fighting what's his face in Metal Gear Solid when he fought against. I want to say it was Psycho Mantis, the dude with the mask floated around that you actually had to. There was a trick where you pulled out the controller and plugged it into the second port instead of the first one to fuck with them. Oh, that honestly, that was a really good bit of game design. I don't know if they intended to do that, uh, but top tier. I still remember that to this day.
Yeah, he's talking about in Metal Gear Rising fighting the senator. The music made that fight. It really did. It was such a hype soundtrack for like
Metal Gear
normally if
Rising.
you
Which
heard
one
that
was that one?
Metal Gear Rising, it
Yeah.
was so it's a game that it's actually a bit different than most Metal Gear games because this is made by Platinum Games, the same people
So it
who made
wasn't
things
made
like
by Konami.
no, this is different. That's why it's so like high octane,
Huh.
ridiculous, and over the top compared to the Metal Gear Solid. I
Hmm.
mean, even the name is ridiculous. Metal Gear Rising Revengeance. That's neither the
That is,
word,
yeah,
but I don't
yeah,
care
yeah,
because it's awesome.
yeah.
And yeah, the final boss is you're fighting a U.S. senator, and and it's ridiculous, but like the
It,
music is so good, it's so hype. The
yeah,
Platinum Games really knows what they're doing because they've also done the Bayonetta series, which
that
if
has a
you've played
really
that,
good soundtrack. Yeah.
yeah, like you're playing Bayonetta, she's fabulous and she knows it, and the soundtrack goes right along with that. You know you're a fab bitch and you're kicking some ass.
with
That's
with
exactly what the
pistols for
music does.
shoes and skin tight whatever the fuck that is that leaves nothing to the imagination.
Yeah.
Let's just put that out there.
my kind of
Another
my
game,
kind of girl.
right. um Skin tight hair, exactly, it's fucking hair.
Yep.
It's hair.
It's never real
um
clothes, it's hair.
but another game that just came to mind that not only for gameplay but from what I remember got really was really well received in terms of soundtrack was Neo. I think it's Neo Automata.
Nier Automata,
Yeah,
fun fact, another Platinum's game.
I think we're starting to see a theme here.
They do good shit, man.
Yeah,
They're
hey,
great.
yeah, more power to them. I have to check them out though. Um, but so with that, there's actually one other piece that I do want to talk about. Again, loving the engagement, guys, that are our viewers. Loving the engagement, and you guys are kind of bringing back some nostalgic feels. Um, but we did mention Doom a bit, quite a bit here, and Matt knows what I'm kind of getting at here. Um, I don't know if you guys are familiar, but as much as music and the music composition is great for a game, sometimes there's a dark side to being a composer, and unfortunately, recently I believe not recently. It's what actually no, it was recently. It was 2022, November 9th of 2022. When
Yeah,
for those of
about
you
half a year.
guys, yeah, who are aware of what happened with the Doom Eternal game and that whole fiasco with their composer
Mick Gordon.
Mick Gordon and what happened between him and Marty Stratton's kind of back and forth. So for those of you who don't know, I guess I'll give you guys kind of a brief synopsis. Uh, Basically, Mick Gordon worked on the Doom Eternal soundtrack, um, and kind of got shafted. And again, this is my opinion, um, based off of the evidence that he provided in a hour-long read on. Actually, if someone could post the uh, Matt or Greg, if you could post the Medium,
I
the
gotcha.
link to the Medium. Words escape me.
Yeah,
The
I gotcha.
Medium article. There we go.
Oh, we double
Um,
gotcha.
he kind of goes into detail on what happened there with ZeniMax. I believe that yeah, it was ZeniMax Studios, or was it Bethesda?
Correction. Well, ZeniMax was the kind of parent company, but the
Yeah, it's a parent
specific
company.
company that he was dealing with was, I believe, id Software,
Id
and
Software. Oh, okay,
the
ID
studio
Software. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
director Marty Stratton. That's the main point of contention. And yeah, like this is. I mean, I guess this isn't. I guess we're a little late. I guess talking about this, is it since the situation kind of escalated a half a year ago. But like,
Yeah, it kind
so
of
like
came to a head.
yeah, so
A bit
like the
ago.
original, like what originally happened was people were kind of talking about Doom Eternal's soundtrack being a little lackluster compared to the previous Doom game, which was fantastic as far as the soundtrack went. Also good gameplay, but yeah. And so Marty Stratton, the studio director of id Software, made a Reddit post. And he did that 3 years ago, and he pretty much his side of the story laid pretty much almost all of the blame on the composer Mick Gordon, and it goes, and that story was kind of like the publicly accepted truth for a long time until 2 years after that, Mick Gordon came out with his own response to that. And let me tell you, this man he waited 2 whole years, laying this essentially a stain on his record while he gathered pretty much all the evidence he
He needed,
needed.
yeah, and
Because
then
like if you pull up that article, it's long, and also he has so many screenshots. Man has
mhm.
receipts.
Oh yeah, he did not let that slide at all. And again, kudos to him for doing that and standing up for himself. And the reason why I wanted to bring that up is because, yeah, to illustrate that, kind of to drive home the point that music is a pillar of a really good game. It's one of the core pillars of a really good game. In my opinion, there's a couple of them. Definitely character, um, character progression. Character arcs, relative to the story and to the character presented. Like not having a character that is a complete freaking left turn for no apparent reason whatsoever, just because for shock value. No, that's stupid. Plot, environment, the world and world building that you do, and music. Obviously, visuals. Those are important too. Obviously, but but music is definitely up there on that list because as we've had throughout this discussion, we have examples of where games were okay or mediocre or just decent, but we go back to them because how the music interacted with us, ideally how the music made us feel, which is it's probably 99% of how we interpret that music is how it made us feel in the moment when we're going through a tough battle or witnessing a touching scene. um, it's the feeling that the emotions that it evokes within us as the players in the audience. and I might add an interactive audience, which is something you don't get from movies or videos or movies or TV or books, where we're just along for the ride. As a gamer, when you're playing a game, you're an interactive part of that story process. So I would argue that we feel the emotions evoked by the music and the musical composition more, um, because we're active in it. But yeah, like I wanted to bring up Mick Gordon's article and his situation, even though hopefully it's passed and he's gotten some resolution from it. Highly recommend you guys go read it, um, because as Matt pointed out, the initial reception to the Doom Eternal soundtrack was it's like, what the fuck is this? Because again, they had set the precedent for really, really good scores, and then obviously through some snafu, they got shit. And it was such a transition where it was noticeable, and people were understandably upset about it. Um, and it kind of goes again. It goes to show you how impactful really good music is, and how as gamers, especially if video games are our primary medium of gaming, because there's multiple. If there's a lackluster soundtrack, something that we were excited for or looking forward to, and eh, you know falls flat,
Yeah,
and it's disappointing.
yeah, and I guess like a bit of a TLDR as when it comes to that whole fiasco, and this is only covering a mere section of it because there's a lot of stuff that happened because according to Mick Gordon, like they did him real dirty. Like one of the problems was that he had very little direction to go on as far as like creating the tracks for a certain level because a lot of times these levels were like a lot of times they weren't even like created yet to the point to where there was like a solid theme that he could create with it. And so like yeah, it's hard to make the music that goes with the themes of a level if the level doesn't really exist yet. So he would guess essentially and try to create these tracks. And
Hmm.
one of the bigger problems is that he only, if I recall, because the last I really checked up on like a in-depth look on this was a while ago, but he got paid for what was essentially the tracks that they would accept. So they essentially like he'd send a track over and essentially they'd kind of reject it. So he wouldn't get paid for that one. So yeah, that was kind of how it went. But come find out later, like after a lot of other stuff had gone down, the game releases and he hears some of those tracks that were supposedly rejected in the game that he never got paid for.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's a very small that's just one thing that happened. There was a lot of things that happened. Like long story short, Marty Stratton, he mismanaged the project heavily,
Yep.
and he pretty much used Mick Gordon as the scapegoat. He landed it all on him, and it was a pretty big deal because that wasn't just like a personal attack. That also affected Mick Gordon's whole career, and it was used by this guy as a scapegoat to cover his own ass. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. 100%. Aries. Yeah. And honestly, that doesn't, at least from my experience, that doesn't happen too often. Um, Man, I'm grateful for it, because yeah, it's an unfortunate thing to do, especially for someone as well known as Mick Gordon, and you know, to kind of do him over like that. That doesn't look good for you. And because on and again, going off on a little bit of tangent, that puts the players, us, as not just players, lovers of of the IP or the genre, but also as consumers, that puts us in a bad spot because we can't support our favorite game, anymore. Like, oh, we would put, or we would feel some kind of way about it. Like, I'll be 100%, transparent here. After reading about that, I'm never gonna buy a Doom game again.
Yeah. Well,
Like,
that
I'm never gonna support that studio again. There are a number of studios out there that I won't support because of certain things that have come to light, that kind of rub me the wrong way. And it's unfortunate because it's not everybody's fault. You know what I mean? It's
yeah.
not,
I
that doesn't fall on everyone.
kind of feel like I should add a disclaimer here and say that all of our opinions are personal and not
Yes.
we're
Yes.
not we're not if you enjoy those games, if you enjoy the Dune games, in which I know there's a lot of people that do enjoy the games,
Play them.
you
Yeah.
do
Yeah.
you. This
Yeah,
is
play them. So
Yeah. Because
here's the thing, guys. As Greg was saying, disclaimer: the views of the three of us do not reflect the views of the Vanguard Studio as a whole. These are just our personal views. And again, if you enjoy those games, if you enjoy supporting those studios, do you? You are like us. You are a consumer. Spend your money where you want to spend it. Simple as that.
yeah, and like the choice whether or not to support a company after stuff like this, it's always a difficult one because not only because like these decisions that usually cause the controversy are usually made by the people up top, but
Hmm.
like there's also the fact that like there are so many people, you know, so many other people in the company, the people on the ground line, the
Yeah.
uh,
The the
you know,
the
the
developers, the designers.
developers, artists, and like all these other people that they
Yeah.
didn't. It's not their fault what happened, and they're just trying to make it through too. So it's like it,
I,
it's it's one of those things that I think it could be up to. There's no one single answer. I think if you don't want to support the game or the company anymore because of the decisions up top, then that's fine. That's your decision. But there's also supporting the ground floor employees, and that's again, it's a personal choice that I think everyone has to make, and I don't think there is a wrong or a completely
Or
wrong
right.
or completely
Yeah.
right answer in these situations.
Hmm.
we tend to hear about things like this far too often happening, and it's in some cases there is there has been some cases out there, court cases out there, where people have been found liable for these types of issues. It's from our standpoint, kind of addressing your comment there, Aries. I mean, I agree completely, and I think it's a standpoint that we have as a group, that that type of behavior and the mistreatment of your artists and your contributors is not something that we approve of at all, and it's a firm standpoint that we have as a content development studio, that you know that's not going to happen. We do not want to even touch on that type of thing in our engagement with the folks that we work with, and anybody else who does it. We are firmly against that, and we disapprove of it. And I think that's really to just clarify from this conversation revolving what went on with Doom. We definitely disapprove of those actions. It's not something that should have never happened. Never. Any
Definitely.
company that engages in that kind of practice. Now, granted, there are situations where things happen. I get that accidents happen, but then it's even if there's an accident that happens, then it's all about how do you handle it. What do you actually do after that has come to light, that okay, this happened, and that becomes the important piece right there. Is it's not about the fact that you made a mistake, it's about how did you actually handle that mistake after you realize that you made a mistake. That's a really important piece to it. And it sounds to me like there was, it wasn't handled well. I'll just leave it at that.
Yeah,
Mm,
and like
yeah.
here's and I guess this sounds simple, but like if you treat your people well and they enjoy working on the project, that's going to show. Like there's so many games that you play where you can tell that the people involved had fun working on it. Like
Hmm.
to go back to the Metal Gear Rising Revengeance, that game
I'll have to
is
play that
chock
game
full of
now.
such ridiculous stuff that you know they had fun doing it. Like there was one thing that they did, which is probably the most relatable thing I've ever seen in a video game ever, where they're trying to plug in a USB cord and
And
it
then
doesn't
flip
go in,
the
and then they
trick.
flip it the other way and then plug it in. It's like
That's
they did
so,
not have to do that, but it's
that's
so
so
goddamn
great.
relatable and hilarious that you know that
Yeah.
they were
That's
laughing
a
their
whole
asses off.
that's a whole mood. That's a whole ass mood right there.
Yeah.
Holy shit.
Like just the most relatable thing I've ever seen in, in a game.
That's a whole ass mood right there. Damn. I'm gonna have to play that shit now.
Oh,
Um,
it's a ride.
but yeah, I agree with you, Aries, on that one. Pretty much all of what you said. Like we as gamers, and this goes for anybody who plays any kind of game, whether it's TTRPG, a video game, fuck a board game. You know, y- y- make the decision that's best for you and kind of what your moral compass is. But at the end of the day, have fun. Enjoy it. Enjoy whatever it is the game that you play. And don't feel judged if again you play Doom, and because it's not the average Joe game designer in that studio, or the employee that comes in, does the job, go home. Oftentimes those kind of decisions that end up with that kind of outcome are definitely at the top, of the food chain with regards to a studio. And it's unfortunate, but I mean, Greg, you hit the nail on the head. It's not about avoiding mistakes, because mistakes are going to happen. It's how you handle and own up to that mistake that really sets you apart. I mean, a perfect example for me is CD Projekt Red and the 2077 game. It had its bumps, it had its lumps, and they kind of made a couple of errors, but they definitely kind of owned those errors and said, "Hey, we're sorry, and we're going to fix it." And honestly, over the last couple of years, well, 2077 came out what
2020.
2020, yeah. And the last couple of years, they've done nothing but try to make amends for that. And honestly, in my opinion, they've done it. So
Oh,
I
I
mean,
am.
we got a fantastic anime out of it.
Aries, I still periodically play Fallout 76 myself, so don't worry about that, man.
All
Um,
right,
Well,
Aries. All right,
I
Aries.
am judging
You
away.
need to go. All right, he needs to go. We can't have that kind of can't have that kind of influence here. I'm sorry, man.
Yeah,
We have standards in this stream, okay?
yeah, but
Um, but no, I mean, again, yeah. If
I,
if you enjoy it, if you love the game, play it, man. Enjoy it.
yeah. Oh yeah, and I was just about to bring that up what Grim Wolfen just said. No Man's
Yeah,
Sky. That is one hell of a redemption story. Like,
yeah.
because probably one of the most disastrous launches. Like, people start calling it No Man's Lie. Like, it was that bad. And
Really was
amazingly, they brought it back all through
actually.
free updates as well. Like, I am incredibly impressed that they actually stuck with the project instead of jumping ship, and they
They didn't. Yeah,
improved upon it and made it something that was actually enjoyable to a lot of people. That's like 2077, that's a redemption story as well. But I think No Man's Sky is there's such a greater amount of the original disappointment
hmm
to its redemption. They went so far, and I can't believe they actually did it.
One other one that I think has a beat is the redemption arc for Square Enix and Final Fantasy 14. If anyone has ever played the
Oh,
game when it first launched, that game was trash. It was damn near unplayable. It's one of the only games I've ever like returned. Like I went and got it again because it was a Final Fantasy game. I was like, I know, I stuck it out, but I actually returned the whole out. I was like, nah, give me my money back. It's unplayable. But if there's actually a really, really good documentary, and I highly recommend it. Just look up, Final Fantasy 14 documentary. I think Matt's actually looking it up now from his keystrokes.
Oops.
Check it out. It is a fantastic redemption arc, and really shows it shows a level of love to the art of game making, from a studio that has been doing it for forever. As long as I've been a kid. As long as I've been alive. Excuse me. They've been doing it for that long and longer, because they have games from way back when. But I feel No Man's Sky set the bar for a company that shows.
Yeah.
This
So
is true. No Man's Sky did do it all for free. That is a very, very good point.
So I think we got enough time here to maybe do a couple of call outs, kind of leading up to what's the topic for our next episode. Do you have that?
Topic for our next episode. Honestly, what did you say earlier, Matt? That was something you dropped that I really kind of clicked with me.
We're changing gears then, huh?
Yeah. I mean, I guess this is a topic that it will kind of land somewhat out of video games, but it's just the translation of a story across different media
Okay.
and the
From
kind of
primarily
pains
from
that
video
has.
games to
Video
live
games
action
to
media.
movies or movies to video
Okay.
games. I mean, hell, there's even like say, just a book that gets a movie adaptation. Like
True.
whatever
True.
whatever the case, things have to be changed for this entirely new media, and not everyone's gonna be happy with it because things changed.
Okay, that might be a good topic. I will focus it towards the video games becoming live action movies, because there are plenty of those now, or TV shows or what have you. But that may very well be the next topic of discussion. But I believe in the Razzmatazz channel, we'll leave you guys some updates so you know what to expect next week, next Wednesday, same time, same place.
So couple quick call
Twilight.
outs. If any of you are actually interested in the possibility of being a guest on the show, we're open to that, but we are only going to be selecting people from within the Discord community. So go join our Discord, and you will have that opportunity possibly to be a guest on the show and actually be able to be a part of the live discussion. One other call out: this Friday night, every Friday night, we do our Cyberpunk campaign. The Boar, fantastic name, right? Come check that out and see what happens to our wonderful team. We are going to have a surprise player joining us this Friday, so that'll be a little something extra for everybody.
Yeah.
Outside of that, what do you guys got?
Again, tune in next week at 8 p.m. EST, or 2000 as I like to use, but you guys don't want to do math. EST on Wednesday night for the update log episode 3. To keep updated, again, follow the channel. Hit that follow button. Also, words escape me. Help me here.
Join the Discord.
Join the Discord. There we go. Join the Razzmatazz Discord to keep up to date on all things, the update log, and our Cyberpunk campaign, the Bureau of Reclamation. You guys have a good evening. Again, thank you so much for the interaction, for joining in on the conversation. That's what we're here to do. And I'll see you guys next Wednesday. Have a good one.
Everybody have a fantastic night, and we'll see you next week. Or actually, we'll see you Friday. Thank you very much for being here.
Yep. See you guys next time.